Thank you all for joining us. I'm super excited to sit here with my buddy Ben to talk about his new book.
Yeah, you've got a much better locale than I do right now. I'm just sitting at the place I sit at pretty much every freaking day.
Yeah, and you know what? It probably multiplies that feeling when you're there on the weekend because you also work from home. So you're literally there every day.
It is true. Yes. Yes. I work pretty much 7 days a week. Paradise is just like, enough. Put your damn computer away.
Uh-huh. Yeah, she's standing just outside a frame right now, like with a big, like, hey. Um,
No, she's in the swimming pool. She's
oh,
she's with
okay.
she's with Bella, so it's all good.
Okay, good. Well, I think we should probably start off today with talking about how amazing it is to be a published author and how it like alleviates all of the world weary things out of your life. And maybe you can tell us where you just came back from.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the glamour, right? You're talking about the
I'm
exotic.
you got to tell them about the glamour. What is
Yeah.
just let
So
us into that moment. How does it
I
feel?
I texted Jay like 30 minutes ago. Like, I may not make the live stream because I'm the tire center at Costco, waiting waiting an hour and a half or more to get my tires changed. And yeah, I ended
Uh,
up eating a Costco hot dog. That's how bad it was. So yeah.
how do you go wrong for $1.50?
You, well, you can go really wrong, but it worked
Okay.
out.
But
It
at a
worked out.
Costco hot dog level, because you know what
Mhm.
I think do the churros cost more than the hot dogs do at Costco?
They might.
They might. Okay. Let's see. Who else is here? Hi, Lindsay. Yes, there we are. Sarah's here. Nervous. You'll have to help me out with that one. And then
I
Logan the
see. I see
lobotomizer.
Logan the lobotomizer. Yeah, always a
Well,
favorite.
awesome. Thanks everybody for joining us. Now that the live stream is actually kicked off and we can, I think we could start. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, yeah. Let's do
Huh?
it.
Shannon's here. So I think it would be really helpful, and I know this is going to sound really recursive, like you've done this a bunch of times, but for those meeting you for the first time, Ben, who are you, and what are the kind of stories like do you write, and why do you keep coming back to those like sort of everybody sort of writes in a genre and a subgenre, and they sort of stay within a certain path.
Yeah.
Who are you, and why do you write the things that you write?
Yeah. Well, I'm I've all my identity for most of my life has been as a musician, actually, which is kind of it's a little odd, I think, to and I think it's well, it's not odd, but I mean, it's a creative endeavor, right? I started playing music when I was 5 years old, and went to music school, and that was my identity for a very long time. But I was always more of a creative musician than a classical musician. I enjoyed making my own songs, writing my own stuff. Played in several bands, did a solo thing for many years, and then at 40, I decided um, I just I was tired of the confines of sort of a 4 minute song, a traditional
Mhm.
song, unless you write prog rock, which is a whole other other thing. Um, it's hard to put a lot in there. Music does a whole amazing thing in that it's it's something you can't do alone with words. And you're obviously a huge music fan. You could
Huge
love a
music.
song for your entire life and not understand the lyrics or never pay attention to the lyrics. And then there are some writers that you could listen to and completely lock in on. Um, I think I just wanted a new challenge. I wanted something more to say. So that was 16 years ago when I set out to write my first novel, and it was an amazing experience. I mean, it was just like transformative. I felt like
Yeah.
I gave myself a year to kind of write it, and I think I finished the first draft in 3 months, 3 to 5 months,
That's huge. That's
and I
so
had a full
fast.
time job. I was like writing during my lunch breaks and early in the morning, and yeah, it just felt like taking leg weights off in a way. Because
Mhm.
within writing music, you're not just the confines of the time frame, but also, there's rhyme and meter and word choice, Just look at Rush, who I went to see last weekend. The lyric that Neil Peart used to make Geddy Lee have to try and sing, or he's still singing.
Yeah.
Um,
Even
some words are great
Neil
on
Peart is
paper.
he's dead, and he's still making Geddy Lee sing those songs.
Still making him sing invisible airwaves crackle with life. Bright and tender, bristle with
By the way, I would
beauty.
love to point out to you that prog rock is not the only genre that can generate concept albums. So,
Yeah.
you know, you're a Rush guy, I'm a Pink Floyd guy, which I think is sort of like Beatles and Stones, but
I don't know. I'm a kind of a both guy.
you kind of a
And
both? Okay.
the Rush is a
I'm not.
proxy. The Rush is a proxy because my two high school best friends that we played in a band together, they wanted to play Rush,
Uh-huh.
and I was the one who had to sing Rush. And so, yeah, it's more like an act of love and service that I did for my two friends to go.
That you're still paying back.
I hope they're not listening right now.
Were they
Yeah.
the ones you went to the show with?
Yes.
Ah,
Yeah.
excellent. Great. That's awesome.
Sorry, that was a
All right.
really
So
rambling answer. Yeah.
it was a wonderful answer because I think what we got out of it is that you didn't want to be confined by the 4 minute song and you didn't want to be confined by rhyme and meter. And this writing long form allowed you to break out from that. Did I catch all that?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And Rush.
And Russ. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm curious. Like as we think about. By the way, we're all here talking about this. This is Harmony House. This is
Oh,
by
yeah.
Ben Wakeman. Um, Give us, if you can. I know that you and I have talked end over end about sort of how you can smash down a 390-page book into sort of the elevator pitch. But if you were sitting next to a stranger on a plane, how would you pitch Harmony House to them?
Um, there's a couple of different phrases that have surfaced. I didn't think about this. It's really hard to talk about a book that has as many layers as this one does. So thanks for putting me on the spot to come up with
You're welcome.
the pitch yet again. Um, if you boil it down to the most essential thing, it's really about, can a good idea, and by good, I mean an altruistic idea, can it exist in sort of the societal frame that we have, meaning, you know, hyper capitalism and the universe that we live in the United States, which it's not a political book, but it is a
Right.
political
It's
book
not.
in some ways, right? It is, and that's the other thing that's hard to talk about with this book is it straddles two rails. I mean, it's a literary fiction ensemble piece. Like if you think of one good analog for it is uh, Leanne Moriarty's Nine Perfect Strangers, in a way. Um, and also Jonathan Powers' work, which is all about kind of like he wrote the Overstory, he wrote Playground, which I just finished and was fantastic. But it's this idea that there's big speculative elements moving around in all of my work. It's kind of something that's evolved, and I think that's where our universes kind of overlap. Is um, I don't go full uncanny. I don't go full, horror genre or even full on crime thriller. But this book is a melding of those two for sure.
Mhm.
And that was so far from the little pitch you
Not
were asking
25
for.
words at all. Yeah.
No.
No. The elevator was really tall. You were going to the top of the Taipei 101 there, I think, is what was happening. But you hit on some really interesting things. Is the idea of melding some of the pieces that you really like wanted to hit on within the same genre of book, where it's not a crime thriller in it, but it's also a character study. Like that is one of the things that attracted me to reading your work. I mean, even I think I got involved reading your stuff at Memory of My Shadow, which is much more of sort of a two-person drama, but the extenuating or the extending world um, is bigger than that. And so when you and I started talking about Harmony House, and it was like, Huh, that's an interesting one. It's a hard thing to do when you have six main characters and a few other supporting characters around that, and trying to keep them all together, not just thematically, but to keep the story moving in a way that is manageable while you want to hit on all these other topics, where you want to hit on sort of the social and societal impact of environment change, and you want to tackle some of the thriller aspects of what happens when big corporations do the wrong thing for potentially the right reasons.
Yeah.
Um, uh, wh- I loved getting into this 6 months ago or so when you and I first started talking about it, and I've loved sort of the changes that you've made along the way, um, which brings me, by the way, to my next question.
Hmm.
Because this came out as a serial originally, and you had sort of these big pauses week to week, and sometimes I've written my first and only novel so far is a serial, um, and there are months that can potentially go by before somebody you can see them picking up the trail. Um, how do you take sort of the writing of it, and then the feeling of how those things have to bridge chapter to chapter and start to put them into a cohesive, like one book
Yeah.
picture?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, and I think that if it was a true serial, in which you're writing it literally week by week, I think that's kind of insane, or you have to have like a much bigger brain than I do, or a higher risk tolerance. Some people wait to have the entire novel done. I'm somewhere in the middle.
Uh,
So I think of it always like a novel. I don't think of it like a serial. The serial is just the vehicle for it that I'm publishing it. Um, so like Daedalus, the current piece that I'm serializing, we're on chapter 30. I have 9, 10 chapters of buffer that have been eroding away. I had a lot more than
yeah,
that, but all this focus on getting Harmony House published has whittled that margin down. But I know the end game. I kind of know where I want it to go. But it it's really um, motivating for me to serialize work because it makes me have to do something with it every week. I have to
hmm,
touch it every week. If you're like most of us and you have a serious day job that consumes a lot of your time and mental energy, having that deadline every week, like every Monday morning, come hell or high water, I have to post a new chapter of Daedalus, which is no small thing. It requires an editing pass. It requires, you know, putting the post together and all the linking, and it requires the audio narration recording and editing of that, and then the mixing of it, and then posting it. So, you
yeah.
know, and I'm proud to say, I took a 2 week vacation and I've had all kinds of things happen and I haven't missed a single Monday for 30 weeks and getting it out. And that's
Excellent.
that. And I've not lost anybody. I think that, the same folks who were committed in the beginning are still, following it week to week. And that to me is a huge feeling of accomplishment. That if you can keep people engaged in your story when they have a week in between every single, you know, release.
Yeah,
And I think it wouldn't be possible for me to be as prolific and go as far as I have without that feedback from people. I've had so many
mm,
amazingly caring people comment. Like even when I feel like I'm like, this sucks. I can't do this anymore. It is just a grind. And what's the point anyway? I'm never going to make a living at this. All the negative things that you say. And then someone goes and love bombs, like they binge like 8 chapters in a day and they leave these glorious comments. This woman, Kendall, did that like a month ago. And it was just like, wow. It's like this connection that you make with somebody that all of us as writers are trying to do.
yeah,
But you get that like those little micro doses
yeah.
along the way.
Um, because you thought about Harmony House as a novel all the way through, it had been sitting around for a little while when you and I started talking about putting it into print form. And I know that one of the things that uh, as you and I were talking about, sort of my perspective on it as a publisher, even as a light editor in this way, and where you felt it sat in memory, because I think you had to indeed go back to the text and go back and sort of
Relearn
rehash
it.
the memory, yeah, relearn it because it wasn't all in memory. Making that next transition, though, was that difficult? Was it
Mhm.
easy? Was it, like, complicated?
It was good. It was a really great exercise to do, because I'm kind of a pants writer. I mean, I don't write from an outline. I have a vague idea of what I'm going to write when I'm first drafting something, but I'm somewhat slow and careful. I don't vomit out a first draft that's like 50% of the book and then iterate. I make very few, big edits across. Like when I finish a first draft, it's really small, tight edits that I'm doing. Um, so the book was already in a pretty good place. But 2 years go by and you haven't looked at something. Hopefully, you've grown as a writer. So I would read things like, oh, that's not, that could be better. That's a little ham fisted. It could be a little subtler. There are things that I did that I'm so glad I had the opportunity of distance and then the chance to go through and make a print version, because we talked about the two rails of this book. The first third of this book, at least, you know, it's not really a thriller engine book. It's a literary fiction kind of book it's got
Yeah,
satire elements in it. Hopefully it's funny and engaging, but it's more of a human kind of story, If you're trying to read like a page turner thriller kind of book, you know, that engine kind of doesn't kick in for a while.
yeah.
And so I struggle with the dual identity of the book, that it's like these two rails of a tech thriller and a literary ensemble piece. And I had the opportunity to kind of go back and thread the needle to put in these moments earlier in the book that begin to stitch it together, so that
Mm.
um, having that distance was something important to me, to be able to start looking at it more objectively.
Uh, for anybody who this is an odd question. You know what? Before I ask the question, everybody should go to houze.live, HOUZE.LIVE, and go audition uh, for being a cast member in the story of Harmony House. The I asked you earlier what the book was about. Let me see if I could just do a quick brief version of what it's about. Uh, Two brothers invent the most sustainable, eco-friendly house that's possible, and it's 500 square feet. To get it into the hands of more people, which they hope to do, requires an entire marketing push they were not ready for, which includes creating a reality TV series that puts six strangers in that 500 square feet to live together. Those six strangers are the core of the story. And as we think about uh, all the different sort of character traits, character foibles, um, character insights that we get through that, um, you as the writer of all of these characters, I'm gonna I'm gonna presuppose that the answer is I'm a little bit of all of them, but I'm gonna ask you which character are you actually more like than the rest?
Oh, wow. I don't think that I've ever been that question's been put to me, or that I've thought about it, because my stock answer is that I'm kind of in a little bit in all of them, which is true.
Of
Um,
course.
Obviously, the one I most physically resemble is Jesse, but personality wise, not so much.
Mhm.
I think the answer might be kind of surprising to you. I think Jaden
Uh-huh.
is actually who is actually this nanny.
The
She's an African
caregiver.
American nanny, the caregiver. I think that um, that's closest to my comfort zone of yeah. Um, I'm not a confrontational person. I take care of people. I cook. I But again, I'm a little bit of all of them. But I think if I had to look at the spiritual, emotional center of me, it's kind of that. But I can be a judgmental asshole like Jesse. I can I can certainly be a ham like Cam, you know, the musician in it. So yeah, there's a little part of me in all of them, which is what makes it fun to write
Yeah. Well,
novels.
now that you've already named 3 characters, why don't you go through and kinda give us a quick idea of the rest of the main cast, of the
Sure.
House show?
So the premise of it, and I can kind of give you for those of you, I think there's a lot of writers because this is Substack, so you might nerd out on this a little bit. The way that I start any book is I think about throwing, you know, these. If you imagine like throwing rocks as far out as you can get, like I pick like 4 or 5 stones and I throw them in different directions, and they're in directions that I'm interested in, and then my job is to go and kind of pick them up and make a path that connects all of it together. Right. So this was during the pandemic that I wrote this book.
Right,
Everyone
right.
was stuck at home quarantining, and I had just come out of or not just, I was in the middle of like a divorce after being with the same person for 27 years and raising 2 children and our youngest going off to college. So I was kind of ripped open and it was a really difficult time. And I was living by myself and then, and then the world shut down. And so I started looking online at like, you know, fantasizing about, okay, I'm just going to, I think what you actually did, go live in the middle of nowhere, right? Be in the, because I grew up in the mountains of North Carolina and here I am living in Midtown Atlanta. And I just wanted to be away from people and live in the trees. And I was like, well, I could create like a, you know, buy some land and then have like little building sites and everyone could live in a tiny home. And then I went down this rabbit hole looking at all these cool little sustainable homes.
Oh my god, did we all do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was part of it. And then another thing that was happening is my younger daughter was came out to me as trans, and that was a whole other thing that I was having to emotionally figure out, you know, to reorient myself. So a lot of change was happening, and this book was kind of an effort to do that. So there was a long sort of way around telling you the ingredients that went into it. So the characters essentially, you got Jesse, who's like a 58-year-old crusty uh, computer programmer who has suffered a loss of a child. It's heartbreaking to him, and but he's a super idealistic kind of environmentalist, someone who's so liberal they're conservative. If you know the kind of person, right?
So open, he's closed.
Exactly, right. Everybody is the problem, and he recognizes everybody's flaws and is not afraid to say so.
Yep.
Um, and then you've got Deepu, and Deepu is an Indian American kid who, you know, is kind of like bought into the American dream of he's going to have the best outfits. He's going to be, you know, the slick tech bro kind of guy. He is definitely a self promoter, Instagram influencer type. Then you've got Fran. Fran is a, you know, white Latino American, very conservative, religious, you know, very prejudiced in many ways as well, but also has her own backstory that sort of sets all that up. I'm just giving you the surface level of each of these characters. We got Riley, who is a, a trans guy who is an MIT uh, bio bioengineer. He's like just super nerdy and very fascinated by how things work.
By the way,
There's
my
Cam.
favorite character in the book is Riley.
Yeah.
'Cause
Okay.
I so identify with the, uh, well,
Yeah,
I think we should do it
exactly.
this way.
The whole spreadsheet about where everyone should sleep. I thought you might like that
Exactly,
part.
exactly. I was like, "Yeah, I would totally do that."
Yeah. Um, Cameron is African American musician, uh, and he has just come out of like a huge breakup. But he's very big and showy and fun and flamboyant. And then there's one more, and I'm trying to remember who it is. Who did I miss? Uh, I knew I would do this. I did really good,
Well,
and then I just
Jaden was the one that you had
Jaden, of
in this
course.
round. You
Yeah,
forgot about yourself, basically.
I
That's
did.
your best.
Yeah, Jaden is a nanny. She's taken care of other people's kids her whole life, and you know, born and raised in Queens, and you put those 6 people in 500 square feet, and they have to stay in that place, and they only get like 15 minutes outside of it every single day. Um, and that's sort of the premise of the story. But all those 6 were based on kind of Jungian archetypes,
Yeah.
and that's the premise of the show. But I guess the we had to back up the main setup. The thing that I think sets it all in motion is these 2 brothers, the Jensen brothers, Chris and Scott, who have had this dream since they were kids. They've nerded out on homes. Like they had like a big refrigerator box that they made into a little house, like every kid has ever done. But they just kept going and going, and uh, they've built this prototype of this thing that they called Harmony House, that is a fully sustainable answer to climate change for them. That you can buy this thing and it's affordable and you can live off the grid. And then this big corporation lends them the patents to do it and backs them with the money, but it comes at a price, and the price is the billionaire CEO's daughter is going to be a partner in this venture, and she gets to decide how they market it. And the way they market it is a reality TV show. So it's that tension of like, we have this great idea, and now we're going to cheapen the shit out of it and turn it into a spectacle.
Yeah.
So,
The
but you can
the
audition and see all those people. That's I think
That's
we're
right. Go to
looping back around.
house.live, HOUZE.LIVE. Yeah, Ben spent a good, oh, I don't know. I think we've been talking about the House Live site for 4 months, something along those
Yeah,
lines, 5 months. And we've been talking about this version of how how can you audition and how can you have the characters of the story respond back to you, sort of in their own words. And Ben's done like an incredible amount of work in the background to make that happen. So you should at least go poke around and try it out. It's all free. This like it doesn't steal your soul, I promise. Oh, let's see. Lindsay says Fran we talked about. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that is. I think I had so much fun nerding out on it because my day job is software development, and so getting to build this kind of thing to give you a live opportunity to interact with these fictional characters was pretty fun.
Yeah. And it's gonna be up for a while. And is at the end of it, do you get an invite to something?
Yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
it is the gateway to make it to the event next Saturday. I'll be doing a live official book launch online for mostly Substack friends and fam here. So I'll do a reading from the book. Well, I might play a little bit of music because I did compose the music for the novel, like I
yeah,
do for all my serials. It'll just be a fun time. It's not going to be a Substack live because I want to actually see people. So we'll do a Google Meet. But to get the invite, go to house.live, audition, and after you see sort of the little payoff for doing your audition, then there's an opportunity to opt in.
yeah. I want to talk about the. Uh, I told you that I wouldn't throw you any curveball questions, but
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna throw you a couple of curveball questions, or one specifically, because it's been a natural tension in terms of like the way that you have always worked, which is doing it yourself. This project, you were not able to do it all yourself. You and you and I had a lot of conversations. Um, Not only just like technical things, like hey, let's make sure that we uh, lay the book out in a particular way, and let's make sure that we look at every like graphical issue, widows and orphans along the way. But also, you were not You didn't do the cover this
I did
time.
not. I did
Yeah.
not.
And Shane Bizdock created an enormous amount of covers to get us down to, because that's often what happens, right? You go really wide, and then you come back, 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 and you get to the one that really is really the right one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my question to you is, doing it independently means you own every decision, including the bad ones. Uh, this is a different thing. And how was it for you? Taking your hands off the wheel is really the focus of this question.
Yeah. It was weird. I mean, I don't like to think of myself as a control freak. It's not a very attractive thing. But I think I kind of
I
am.
just want to point out that I did not say that.
But I think I have to own that. I mean, I think the DIY thing is partly out of necessity because you know, when I was making independent albums and stuff, I didn't have a lot of money. I kind of worked my ass off as a I was a single earner in our little family, and there was no I wasn't going to go and spend 5 grand to hire a producer for my album. I had to figure out myself. So all those skills kind of coincided because I was always working in software. So recording engineer, all these things could be done. Photoshop skills, all of it kind of folds into the same thing. So I just kind of was a frog in a pot. So that I got used to doing it myself, and that because out of necessity, and then it was like, okay, well now I have to do it myself because no one
Yeah,
else is going to get it right. And then you meet somebody like Shane Bizdock, who is just like such a brilliant, thoughtful, creative human being. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't have to sweat that. He'll figure
yeah,
that out.
yeah,
And so it was actually lovely. I've played with a lot of other musicians, and the best albums I've ever made were the ones that I did a part in them. I did not own the entire thing and all the decisions. It was really a collective because there's something that you do in that process. And it was exactly like the collaborations that I've had with musicians working with Shane. It's like, okay, I wrote this thing, but I'm not going to tell you how to play the drums on it. And he came back with many different parts. And we talked about that in a video last week, I guess it was. Um, he's going to post, I'm sure, to show the evolution, like he always does, of the ideas and the brilliance that he went through just to kind of get to
yeah,
the simple cover that we have. Simple is hard. Simple is really hard.
for sure. He's commenting in the chat. He says he loves working with you, and some were totally what the fuck.
I love the what the fuck ones though. They were really good.
But the taking your hands off the wheel is a tough thing, especially uh, in a nascent press, right? We're still trying to figure it out within the Tiny Worlds group.
Yeah.
Like, how do we talk to bookstores, and how do we get the word out, and how do we get
Yeah.
uh, you know how do we rattle the right doors? It's all a learning process because none of us don't think none of us really come from this field, but we all have a yearning and a quest to get there, and we're trying to figure it out in some amount of lockstep along the way, which is a to me that feels like a really wonderful thing because I want to be the person who has all the answers, and I do not have all the answers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's, I guess, flip the script a little bit because I think that this is as much about a story about you as it is about me. I mean, you approached me wanting to do, uh, to collaborate on releasing one of my books. And, we had conversations for a couple of months leading up to it. And
Yeah.
I think my first interaction with the Tiny Worlds crew was being a part of the Midnight Vault too, back in November. I Because you invited me for the first one, and I was like too busy and I just couldn't get around to it. And then you sent another invite for the second one. I was like, yeah, I want to do that, but too many other things got in the way. And I was like, fuck, I'm gonna do it. And I like wrote the short story that went into the book like in a 3-day just binge. I just like banged it out so that I would have
Yeah.
something for Thanksgiving to give you. Oh, I think I've got it too, by the way.
And fallback is killer. Ah. Yay.
Yeah. So I think the thing that I loved about your vision for this thing is the community aspect of it. Just the collective of bringing people together, um, to make something bigger than we are. And
Yeah.
I think that we live in a world right now that is completely, um, all the advancements in technology that have been democratizers, that have given everybody the ability to be a, you know, to be on Spotify or to be on Amazon. That's been happening, since for the last 25 years, right? But what
Forever.
was what was new is now people are just generating shit, right? They're just generating novels. They're just generating music. They don't even have to know how to do the thing. They just know how to prompt and then push it into a marketing engine.
Yep.
So it's a very kind of dystopic world that we're living in that respect. But there's still this huge amount of potential to reach people, like we're doing right now, like doing this video.
Mhm.
People just spin by and they see us, and that's an amazing connection. So I was really drawn to your vision for tiny worlds, and the other writers that are on the imprint are amazing. Shane, Lindsay, Sean, Hannah, everyone that I've met so far is just not just a great talent, but also just a genuinely wonderful human being, and that's really cool.
I said that from the very first conversation that Sean McDonald and I had live when we were talking about Cherry Kills and sort of announcing the formation of Tiny Worlds. I really just wanted to find some great people to work with, and I feel like they're. By the way, I have found them, and I have other people that I think are really wonderful that I want to make like I want to work with those people too. Um, but this is like the right size for today. There's like sort of in that five, six, seven author range where everybody could still be doing their own thing and we can all get together and we can help each other out. Um, Once it gets bigger than that, I think it's sort of like metastasizes is the wrong word, but it sort of feels that way where it's like it's unwieldy.
Yeah,
Um, but the wonderful human beings was really the focus there. I want to find wonderful human beings to work with so that it made like doing the hard work of putting a novel together and getting it out to people and looking at proof copies and sort of arguing over this or over that easier because they were already good human beings. Um,
yeah.
and I had a conversation with Lindsay Resnick the other day, and we were talking about sort of the varied genres of the writers that are part of Tiny Worlds, right? So um, these are wonderfully horrible buckets that I'll put everybody in, right? So if I write more magical realism and Lindsay writes more frontier horror, which is I think something we made up, uh, and
I
and
love that.
And Shane, we're not sure what he's going to do next, but he's sort of like creative director for what's going on. And Hannah has written a lot of Victorian gothic, right, and then one sci-fi novel, and then Sean has written Cherry Kills, which is we've been calling pulp noir, but he's really much more in the horror category, but this sort of literary horror in a way. Like none of us cross over, right? And you included, right? So we're like, where does Memory of My Shadow fit into this? Where does Harmony House fit into this? They're all so incredibly freaking different. But I kind of don't care because like the label of whatever Tiny World is shouldn't be defined by sort of the emojis that go along with the genres
Yeah,
because that feels like that shortchanges the writers who were involved. And it's one of the reasons why like I don't spend a lot of time worrying about whether or not all of the folks have a certain genre and we're selling a genre package because
yeah,
I don't read just horror and I don't read just sci-fi. So why would I want to set the imprint up to be exactly that?
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. People, it is a commitment to get someone to read a novel, and I never take that for granted. So I know that I don't read all the novels that I'd like to. There's things that I just don't ever get time
I don't
to.
have time.
So it's a huge commitment to do that. But I think when you trust someone enough to make that commitment and you do it, and they're a good writer and they're thinking about you, because I think that you can tell when a writer is just, I don't know, it's just kind of they've lost the script themselves. They've gone down
When they're
so
just
far down the
phoning it in.
well, or they're either that or they're just so far down the wormhole of their own kind of interest that they're forgetting that, oh, this has to be a story that pulls you along with it. You know, it has to
Yeah,
like so all the things that you mentioned, all the genres together, I think one thing that we all have in common is it is that propulsion that is forward movement of the story, you know?
yeah.
And yeah.
Well, I mean, there is a point of like I don't know, telling the right story in the right moment for the the audience that telling the right story in the right moment for you as the author, regardless of whether or not the audience exists for that story today.
Right.
And I think that's often how I feel about books. And your point about like getting someone to read your book is a high bar. It absolutely is. But if we think about sort of if we put out really great literature over time, then what we end up with is we end up laying out all of these really wonderful sort of paths for people to go, "Oh, I saw this thing and I saw this other thing." And the blooming of those thoughts, those like seeds that all the stories plant, that is a wonderful place to play. And even if we're like you're not selling out a store's worth of books today, like that you're planting a seed for somebody else tomorrow, that's that's pretty cool. That's like that's teacher level cool is the way I think
Yeah.
about it, where like you've planted the seed in all those kids and you won't see it actually flower because you won't be around when it happens.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I would be remiss if I didn't call out Blue Bud, which is Lindsay's collection of
Yes.
stories. I want to read more of her stuff, but I I, I blazed through her collection of stories, and it's so good. It is so good. I mean, it's just like um, I finally, Lindsay, if you didn't see, I finally went around and got the Goodreads review done for you. I meant to do it. I posted on Substack as soon as I finished reading, but I'm I'm shitty at doing the thing that I want other people to do for me. So um, great short stories. They feel like kind of the energy of early Stephen King writing. Very real, naturalistic characters. Uh, just loved it.
Yeah.
So
Uh, I I don't want to say too much, but wait until you read Cigar Box Saints. Lindsay, you and I are going to have a conversation the next couple of days. Um, but okay, let's get back to Ben because she's going to cry again. I think she said crying was not on her calendar today. Um, Ben, what 30 seconds after somebody closes Harmony House,
yeah.
that that liminal space that you're in when you finish a story and you're like, what do you want them to be thinking about?
Um, gosh, I don't know. I think the ending for me was really satisfying when I finished the arc of this book because it was a big arc. I started it in 2020, abandoned it for 18 months or 2 years, and Paradise was like, "Whatever happened to that book that you were writing? You used to read it to me, and then you just stopped." And I was like, "Well, I got these people in this house. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. You know, I got bored with the idea, and life happened, and I got laid off from a job and I was stressed out. And then I like took 18 months off. I'm like, I was on Substack. I'm like, I need to actually start writing something again. And I picked that story up and found an arc. So um, I think it's a hopeful story, but at the same time, a clear eyed, hopeful story. I mean, it asks more questions than it answers, which to me is always a great book. If you're going to write a book that's not just entertainment, but it's actually got some deeper themes in it, I think my job is just to ask as many of those open-ended questions and to try and portray characters as truly as I can so that you can't just make a judgment about somebody and be like, that person's an asshole. that person's shallow. So I think that the one thing hopefully you come away with, I think people have said from the serial in the comments that were like they felt like they knew those people, like they could walk into a restaurant and have a lunch with them tomorrow, and they would
Yeah,
know them. And that to me is the highest praise because that's to me character is everything. You can write a story about anything, and I'll be entertained if I care about the characters.
absolutely. Absolutely. Ben, this has been lovely to just sit and chat with you. I feel like we don't get to do this near enough.
No, I know. We shouldn't have to have an audience to do this, but we're always so busy focused on the work part of it. But
And you and I end up talking asynchronously so often that it's like 4:30 in the morning, I'll get a message from yesterday, or whenever I'm up with the kids.
yeah, yeah. No, Jay, the pleasure is mine. And thank you so much for believing in this book and for all the hard work you put into chasing down the widows and orphans in the typesetting. I think that was the first thing that we talked about whenever you were like this partnership of what you'll do and what I'll do. And I was like,
Yeah,
shit. I was like, I do not want to have to typeset another fucking book. Because it plays upon the worst OCD aspects of my personality of like, I couldn't leave it alone. I just kept nudging and nudging and nudging and nudging. I'm like, why don't you do that part? And I won't
yeah.
touch it. So,
At some point, as everybody will know that who's gone through that process, at some point you're like, did that one extra space matter? So you sort of like you have to bucket them.
sure,
Anyway,
sure.
thank you so much
Lots
for
of
the time.
love.
Everybody should get out there and grab a copy of Harmony House. You can find it. We can pre-order paperbacks right now. There's a dog that's come to see me. Hello. There's a You can pre-order right now on tinyworldspublishing.com or tinyworlds.store. Ebooks are being delivered now, like literally right now, so you don't have to wait until the paperback gets released next week. Obviously,
Absolutely.
available everywhere too, all at the same time.
Yeah. And audition, House.live. Meet your soulmate who lives in house.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
How's that? How's
Awesome.
that live? Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you,
you all so much for
Shannon, for
coming to the
buying
show.
my book. Thank you all.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, all.